And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And folks, we got a couple of topics that we want to discuss today. And one, we want to follow up against Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has pulled off the biggest scam in American history with COVID. And two, we're going to talk about a parenting situation that we saw on Facebook. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on in. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And first, let me give all praises to Yahuwah and Yahusha. That's God in Christ in Hebrew. To the American people and patriots across this country, we saw COVID, and COVID was the huge thing. They did everything wrong to us as American citizens. And here it is later on now that we find out that COVID was nothing no more than the flu, and that the federal government, team players like Anthony Fauci and some of the other big name politicians, the Obamas, the Clintons, all of them use COVID as the way to push different agendas and try to change our society with the transgender world and all the other stuff that we saw. But now that President Trump then got back in office, we can see that all of these things was a lie. Evidence is coming out, things that the new administration wasn't supposed to get, they got. Now President Trump is sharing it with the American people. And let me say this, to the American people and patriots across this country, we should be totally pissed off because the actions that they took against the American citizens during COVID and the new culture war were treason against the government and treason against the American people. Now, as we've seen over the past year or so, we've seen how the Democratic Party has been totally exposed to doing all the wrong things, cheating with the votes, coming out with COVID restrictions and all of that, pushing the transgenders into our athletic world, changing the whole school curriculum to be taught about homosexuality and to lie to the parents. The American people have been through a bunch of you-know-what. And so now that we see that all this information is coming out, we need to really push the president. We need to push Congress that these people who perform these scams, because they're nothing but big grifters like Barack Obama and the monstrosity in Chicago, $850 million. He stole over $1 billion and put it in his pocket for something that had nothing to do to pertaining to the neighborhood. So the American people need to go to these midterms, especially the Black Americans. Black Americans should be running so far from the Democratic Party, switching over to another party or whatever that they need to do, because the Democrats themselves have waged war against us. So this is a true wake-up call to the Black Americans in this country that we now know the enemy has always been the Democratic Party. We break these party lines and we move on to something else much bigger and greater. Either we start a party ourselves or we use the Republican Party to rebuild our communities so that we can create generational wealth for our children. And in saying that, let me get my host in. What's up, Doc?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, it's good. We can hear you this week.
I know. I'm so happy.
Doc, listen, Anthony Fauci, they found out that he knew about the COVID vaccination that would harm citizens. It messed up ladies who were pregnant, all of these things that they knew about beforehand, before administering this shot. And yet they played like they didn't know what the problems would be. And they really, really, really have damaged a lot of people, maybe 20 to 30 million people that's been affected by this so-called experiment. What are your thoughts on this and the way that they're coming after Dr. Fauci? You think that this is a way for accountability? What do you think, Doc?
Well, I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and he's the perfect fall guy. I'm not saying that he's not a part of it, but he's a part of it. There were a lot more moving pieces because he can't write legislation. There were people doing that. There were people writing policy at the state level and at the local level and at the federal level that damaged generational wealth for eons. See, they didn't need to burn down cities anymore.
Yes.
They just brought in this pandemic, right? That destroyed that generational wealth that people fought to build over generations. And there are still people yet to this day that are like demanding, you need to get your shot. You need to get your booster. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all wake up. This is over. Stop. Okay. Knock it off. This is over. So at this juncture, if people are still pushing this, they need to really stop and question themselves because people's lives were destroyed. On top of that, they put in things like the PPP loans. How many people do we see constantly going to prison for something that Congress put in place? Congress destroyed the generational wealth. It wasn't the pandemic, and it wasn't Fauci. He was just a part of it. He was the fall guy. And they probably told him, you're going to be the fall guy. We'll protect you, because they have. Okay? They protected this man. He should have been in prison 5 years ago.
Well, you know what, Doc? Everything, and I keep saying Barack Obama's name keep coming up, because Barack Obama set this whole transgender and the homosexuality into motion under his administration. Joe Biden set the deal up with China while he was the vice president, because there was over 20 different fictitious companies that Joe ran, as well as Barack Obama. And they took money from COVID and this situation, and they put money into all of those NGOs and organizations. And that's how they sucked all the money out of the United States and claimed that this pandemic was so horrendous that they had to shut our country down. To the American people and patriots across this country, Barack Obama, the Clintons, all of them who participated, the Oprah Winfreys, the P. Diddy's, all of them who participated in this charade need to be held accountable, because we can see the damage that it did to us. You're talking about COVID. People lost their loved ones. You couldn't go see them psychologically. They was damaging you.
Yeah. The children not being able to go to school. But on top of that, they brought in mass immigration. And guess who got to go to school? The immigrants.
Here
guess
in Chicago,
who didn't have to get vaccinated? The immigrants.
Exactly.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
But you know what? I'm glad you did, Doc, because this whole situation has been bent to finish destroying the Black community. It really has. And I want Black Americans to hear this and just think for a moment. Think about how the Black community was self-contained while we were segregated before Dr. King came over the integration and allowed whites to come into the Black community and buy up all the businesses and take over the Black dollar. See, What Black Americans fail to realize is that we have been getting played by our own people. We didn't have the vision to see because we trusted leaders like we trusted these clowns right now. And look what it has. The family structure in the Black community is gone. Our children are illiterate. They're in crime situations. They can't win. Nobody's teaching them anything. But that's why COVID was the cover to a lot of culture changes, a lot of things that the administrations wanted to put through against us. That was just a cover. Because in that cover, just think about it. We saw transgenders. We saw our children in school being told that they need to have sex change operations. We saw our military get infected by homosexuality, and they was using the federal government to have sex changes. We saw politicians who used COVID as a close to shut down the churches, and pastors who were not preaching the true word of God went along with it. That destroyed more of the Black community. We have seen this the war waged against us. NAACP that represents Black people and a long time ago, now they're representing migrants and fighting for them to stay in the Black community. The immigration situation, they opened up the borders and let all people come into different communities. But the first community they landed in was the Black community. They gave them loans, cars, houses. They opened up businesses in the Black community and couldn't even speak English, but could count money. So Black Americans need to understand that we have been totally under attack. And we have just in a place that our own kids, the Boule Negroes, the educated fools made a deal with the Democratic Party to destroy us. What do you think about that, Doc?
Well, I would say for some of them, they're not Black Americans. And that's the rub, right? Because a lot of their parents are from other countries. They were born here, but they are not from here, right? They don't have roots or attachment to this soil, so they don't care. No. Their mindset is, as long as I keep myself in proximity, I'll be okay. And you're not going to be okay, because at the end of the day, you were just used. And we don't want you. Okay. The Black community is like, we don't want you, and they're not going to want you. So you guys are going to have to figure it out.
But you know what, Doc? To Black Americans, now that our eyes are open, we saw that George Floyd was no more mere than a subversive tactic to get the Somalis installed into government in Minnesota so that they could live off the government. You know, I find it highly offensive to the Somalis who came here and begged for Black people to help them. And then when we helped them get into power, they talked about us. They said that we were stupid, you know, and they were a better race. But at the same time, they were just some scumbags because they was living off welfare, Social Security.
They are pirates. That is their culture, is piracy. So them, you know, doing what they're doing, they're like, this is a Tuesday for them, right? They don't care.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing that I'm trying to get Black Americans to see. It is time for us to wake up, because we no longer can go along with the program of being these emotional pets and animals to soothe everybody else's problems while they continue to take away from the legacy Black people who are freedmen, who was born in this country, who the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment was written for Black citizens. And I'm trying to get Black people to see how they manipulated us and manipulated the Constitution in order to allow other people from other countries to come here.
They didn't manipulate anything. They just did what they always do. They run roughshod on us. They lied and told everybody it's going to be better once we all do this together. And all it has done is dilute anything that was set aside for the American Negro. Anything.
Exactly. And so I'm telling Black Americans, it's our wake up call right now, because if we don't rebound from this and we bring structure back to us as a people, and I'm saying everybody else stayed intact. The white folks stayed intact. They kept their communities intact. The Chinese kept their communities solid. The Mexicans did too. Everybody kept their communities tight during COVID, except the Black community. This is a wake up call for Black people to understand, if we don't now fight to bring some type of respectability and structure to our children, and that's why you see them, like, if we don't come back, if we can't distinguish to be one people instead of being 3 or 4 different races, like you got the elite, the well elite Negroes who's running the country in the Black community now, who's robbing us blind, talking about we need to make culture changes. They got to go. If the Black community doesn't bring itself together right now, then the future for our children is going to look bleak. Doc, I'm going to play this thing about Fauci, and we're going to talk about it.
Over the weekend, Attorney General Todd Blanche said the DOJ had received the Senate's criminal referral holding Fauci in contempt after he pleaded the Fifth more than 100 times. And now lawmakers are digging through a massive new trove of Fauci's COVID-era communications. Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson have begun releasing texts from Fauci's government-issued phone, which contains more than 34,000 messages and hundreds of voicemails. National News Desk's Christine Frizzell has the latest.
It's the latest example of the sharp contrast between private warnings and public pronouncements surrounding the COVID vaccine. This January 2021 text message to Dr. Anthony Fauci from a Dr. John Mascola suggesting women avoid vaccination in the first trimester of pregnancy due to possible fever and higher rate of miscarriage. A few months later, an email sent to Fauci and former NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins from Dr. Janet Woodcock, contacted by a number of people who had experienced adverse effects post-vaccination, complaining no one takes them seriously and there is no effort to study this.
These folks saw red flags and they lied bold-faced to the American public that they weren't seeing them. They weren't warning people.
It follows years of investigations, largely led by Senator Rand Paul. Dr. Fauci appeared before the Senate Homeland Security Committee just last month and invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege more than 100 times, prompting Republicans on the committee to vote to hold him in contempt of Congress. Recently sending a criminal referral to the Department of Justice.
We did get the referral from the committee, and we're handling that case like as every American should expect, which is we're looking at it and we're going to do everything we can. If it needs an investigation and it should be investigated, we will absolutely do that.
Fauci's lawyers declining an invitation that he appear again, in a letter writing any effort to compel him to appear before a Senate committee would be to impermissibly harass or degrade Dr. Fauci for political purposes. Fauci has for years blamed Senator Paul for having a personal and political vendetta against him.
The sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars.
I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Okay, Doc, your thoughts on that?
So he should be behind bars because he lied.
Yes.
Before this hearing, where he was like, yeah, I plead the Fifth, I plead the Fifth. He had like 2 other hearings prior to this where he lied. We have him on camera multiple times in the public arena saying this is safe and effective. And I was like, that was the dumbest thing they could have ever said. I worked in compliance. You can say something will help you stay safe. But when you give a guarantee that it will keep you safe, you open yourself up to suit. And the biggest problem with all of this is if he goes to jail, then there are senators that need to go to jail. There are people in the House of Representatives that need to go to jail. There are people in HHS that need to go to jail. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a food chain. Okay. The buck doesn't stop with him. It rolls all the way back up to the last Trump presidency where this all happened. Now, Trump was smart because he said, if people want to take it, they can, but nobody should be forced to. He is on camera saying that. So he's absolved. Okay. Yes. He absolved himself of any wrongdoing if anything came back. Smart man. Everybody else making demands on people, because even VP Harris, before they were, put in office, she was like, well, If Trump says it's bad, I'm not going to take it. But if the Democrats say it's so bad, that it's good, then I'll take it. She said that. She's on camera saying that. I'm paraphrasing what she said, but that's what she said. Okay.
But none of them took the shot because Barack Obama,
They pretended,
Big
and that's
Mike
coming out.
Michelle, none of those people took the shot. Joe Biden, none of them took it because they didn't have to. They
were protected from it. Any members of Congress in the House, Senate, Judiciary, they were completely exempt.
Even the employees for the drug manufacturers who created,
they were exempt. That should have been a red flag to everybody. Don't take it.
Well, the red flags continue to fly when they continue to change the narrative about who could get sick. They start talking about, well, black people didn't have to worry about it because it was only white people that was experiencing it. And then after white people got infected with the so-called testing, then the virus that slowly took the L or got in a car and drove down to the black community and started infecting black people. So that's the thing that we should have saw, but I did. I saw that they were doing us. And so Fauci used that platform in a treasonous way.
Yeah.
Because you have intentionally defrauded the government. You intentionally caused over 1 million deaths. You intentionally have caused over 20 million people who took that shot, that they're having all sorts of health problems, cancers, Bell palsy, where their face is falling. And it's going to be more because a lot of people are, suffering in silence, like we said on the other show. People are so screwed up, and they're trying to find excuses on why you all of a sudden got cancer, or you had a stroke,
or died suddenly.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I want to play a little bit more about this Dr. Fauci treasure trove, and then we'll talk about that, Doc.
Now this.
He did not believe a lot of the mandates and protocols that he was pushing. He doubted safety and efficacy of the so-called medical treatments, yet nevertheless forced them on the American people. They've been injured. There's deception. We're going to search for accountability and do everything we can in Florida under our state laws.
That's Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer speaking last weekend on this program on leading a multi-state investigation into Dr. Anthony Fauci's conduct overseeing the COVID-19 pandemic. The probe comes after the former top public health official pleaded the fifth 111 times during a hearing in front of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, despite having a pardon issued via an auto pen by former President Biden just hours before leaving office on January 20th, 2025. Now, newly revealed text messages obtained from Fauci's government-issued phone from January of 2021 show him privately expressing concerns to his colleagues that the COVID-19 vaccines given to pregnant women theoretically may lead to miscarriages during their first trimester. This despite Fauci publicly saying the mRNA vaccines were safe and effective. Meanwhile, Attorney General Todd Blanche is continuing to weigh whether to charge Fauci with contempt of Congress after the Senate Homeland Security Committee referred him to the Justice Department. Joining me now with more on all this is one of the lead Senate investigators into Fauci, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, Anthony Fauci, you've asked him to appear voluntarily. His attorney said that such a hearing would impermissibly harass or degrade Dr. Fauci for political purposes. I know Todd Blanche is weighing on this, but what happens next?
Well, we're looking at our options as well. But what we're going to continue to do is go through the documents we just received. Understand, we only got his phone a week ago. We got his diary a couple of weeks ago. We got 11 million pages that have revealed quite a few things that the legacy media is covering up. So what we are seeing time and time again, Jackie, is officials like Fauci, like Janet Woodcock, like Peter Marks, people who are supposed to be surveilling for safety. We're seeing safety signals. We're seeing red flags. I mean, let's face it. Significant cytokine storm and fever, that's a red flag for potential miscarriage. And yet they would deny that to the public. So they didn't do their job. They didn't take the responsibility seriously of looking for safety signals and then passing those safety signals along to doctors, practitioners and the public. And what we're doing this morning is I'm releasing one new text exchange with the Dr. John Mascola. He was the director of the Vaccine Research Center under NIAID. That was Fauci's division. And this is really I guess, where Fauci got the whole thing about fever. But it reads, I am corrected on pregnancy studies. Initial studies avoid vaccination in first trimester due to possible fever and higher rates of miscarriage in first trimester. Now, quite honestly, so that's where Fauci got the information on fever. I have no idea where Fauci got the information on significant cytokine storms. But this text really raises more questions than it answers. And of course, we immediately reached out to Dr. Mascola. Unfortunately, he immediately retained an attorney. And so we have been able to ask him just these simple questions, just explaining this to us. Hopefully, we'll talk to his attorney. Hopefully, he'll fully cooperate, and then we can at least answer these questions. We're also releasing an email off of Anthony Fauci's device that he received from Dr. Janet Woodcock. She was then the commissioner of the FDA. And she's reporting to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins that she is getting direct reports from including medical professionals of injection injuries and things that are hard to categorize. But quite honestly, they're the exact same kind of injuries that NIH, Dr. Nath was diagnosing and treating as of March of 2021, very severe injection injuries. People like Brianne Dressen and Reactor 19 have been talking about this, that they've been treating, but they never acknowledge these things publicly. And even worse, in that study, Dr. Nath acknowledged to the vaccine injured, the injection injured, that early intervention, early treatment was crucial for successful treatment, and yet they told no one. So again, we see time and time again these government officials whose responsibility was to surveil for safety signals weren't doing their job. When they saw something, they covered it up. They kept saying no red flags, no safety signals. They lied through their teeth to the American public, and I can't tell you how many people died or permanently disabled because they didn't have that information to make the decision themselves in terms of risk benefit.
And that's
Okay, Doc. It's just like what you said, though. They knew and they pushed this thing. And that's why I tell people watching the show, sit down and listen to the information we're giving out, because now the truth is about it. It's coming out slow. And he said a lot of people is damaged, Doc. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's their fault. Because what people were screaming from the rooftops on social media and their pictures and their videos, they were completely blocked off the internet. Do we remember that?
Yes,
People's lives were destroyed. Okay, couldn't keep an account. The minute you said COVID, it was like, boop, you can't be on here. Boop, you can't talk about that. You can't talk about if you got Bell's palsy. You can't talk about if somebody died right after this. We couldn't talk about the Hall of Famer. What was his name? Aaron? Oh, goodness. The gentleman that was 80 years old that passed away.
Hank Aaron.
He was fine. He took that shot, and 2 weeks later, he was dead. Okay? And everybody.
General Colin Powell took it and died from it too as well.
Nobody could say anything. And see, we're not even talking about Bill Gates, who said, this is just round one. See, if you're going to bring down Anthony Fauci, you got to go after Bill Gates.
You got to.
You have to wrangle and bring all these people in. But guess what? That one doctor that they called, he's not coming in. Are you high, Congress? Are you stupid? But here's my thing. There were members of Congress fighting with the American people, basically telling the American people, shut up.
Yes. And you notice that's why you saw a lot of the politicians. They didn't say a word. They allowed the CDC to push the narrative, and the politicians never pushed back. They never asked why. They never hosted any investigations because a lot of them had stock into those.
Now later, that senator that was talking, Ron, he did later. After people pressed him, after people basically banged on his door, sat in his office and said, look, if you don't do this, you won't get anybody's support. And he finally started to have roundtables with RFK and with other people who actually were vaccine injured, with the different doctors that lost their license. Yes. Because they were treating people with ivermectin and chloroquine. Yes. And they were losing their licenses, but they were saving people's lives.
Exactly. And to the American people and patriots, we have to remember these things and the people that perpetrated these crimes on our community, because a lot of doctors who knew that this was all fake, they tried to speak up and they took their licenses, because you got to know that all these agencies was involved. I mean, it's going to be, and I'm saying, if they planning on coming after these people and holding them accountable, and all this stuff is going to come
the
out.
largest class action lawsuit
Yes,
against the federal government known to man, because it affects all
all of
agencies.
us.
We can't go after the House and Senate, but you know what? We can go after all those other agencies. We
Yes.
can go after the CDC.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, we can go after the FDA. There's other agencies that are not governmental agencies. They're protected by the government, but they are still open to suit. We can come after them.
It was a lot of diversions. Like, they tried to use COVID as a biblical time that the devil 666 was supposed to appear. See, Congressman Bobby Rush, you remember he passed the bill, the 66646 bill. Listen, they ass all need to be in jail. They need to be put in front of a firing squad and shot. They
Look,
really
a couple
should.
years ago, when I was running for president, everybody kept asking me, "What would you do?" I would put them in prison.
Yes.
And it would be behind what they did during this pandemic, because it was planned.
Barack Obama, all of them, they planned
How
this.
you gonna send us home for 2 weeks and then have 6 feet circles everywhere and then say, well, and then later on say, well, we didn't really know if it was 6 feet or 8 feet. We just kind of guessed. You had a real good guess because everybody had those signs. Everybody had these little stickers everywhere, and I still see them in certain places. But I'm like, that is a coordinated effort that would take months to execute. You couldn't execute anything like that in 2 weeks. And the stuff was there when we all went back to the store. If you did stay in the house for 2 weeks, it was crazy.
And I want to remind people, the American people, just how asinine it was to wear a mask, because
in the car by yourself.
Yeah, the mask couldn't stop nothing. The mask, no filter mask, none of it could prevent COVID. And just think,
it said so on the side of the box.
Right.
It said so on the side of the box.
And people think about how silly that you look when you got a mask on and you trying to eat, and you raising the mask up, putting food into your mouth, and then pulling the mask back down. See, that's the psychological warfare that I was talking about, because I still see people still wearing masks right now. I got a sister where I work out, and every day she comes and she got a mask on her face. And one day I asked her, why she did it. And she pulled that mask down and her face seemed to be getting like bumpy. And
yes, it will cause infection because your skin isn't breathing.
And it's every day, man. So they did a lot of psychological damage, not to only the American people, but to our children too. Because that's when they changed the curriculums and introduced the homosexuality under COVID.
Well, it was always there. It wasn't that it wasn't there. It came out because the parents had to get more involved in what was going on with their kids, because now their kids were at home and parents were like, what is this? Why is my child learning that? And then it kind of just rushed in. To your point, they already had a plan to rush it in, but it was like, oh, you're just going to force us to accept this?
Yes. And that's what I'm telling the American people, patriots. We have to really look at the enemy here, and those who implemented all of those different programs and life cultures, they should be punished, because it was an act of treason against this country. All the NGOs that they gave diverted money to from Congress people that was sending money to their own NGOs, like Stacey Abrams and the $2 billion she's still trying to steal now, going through the court system. I mean, the list goes on of disrespect
eating our future.
American people and
$250 million. We can't get any of that money back because it's sitting over somewhere in Somalia with terrorists. That's who got some of that money.
Well, when you talk about what Omar did, man, Omar really
But
talked a
she
lot
didn't
of.
know. But she didn't know anything, you guys.
But
But she was
it
only
was all,
surveying
it was all through her that the money came. Her
initially.
own her own sister had got caught up for $250 million of fraud that Omar was part of. So that's what this whole thing has been about. When COVID came, it wasn't about the disease or the virus. It was about implementing all of these new people and places so that they could rob the American taxpayers. And the biggest one that has really kept us off balance was the illegal migrants who came here, and they paid them and gave them everything and just disrespected the American citizens like we didn't
And
exist.
Congress allowed it.
Yes,
Congress
they did.
allowed it. House and Senate. So nobody gets to sit here and go, oh, no, they didn't. Look at the Appropriations Act of 2021. Look up unaccompanied minor aliens. Look up migrants. There
Yes.
was over $500 million set aside for this.
Yep, to train them. And you know, like I said, when they was coming
Not to
across.
train them, just to get them over here
Yes,
and get them
yes.
comfortable and get them
Right.
housing and
Yes.
cars and all these other things. Look, they got to go. And they're mad now. They're like, no, Trump, please don't send us home. I applaud the ones that left. I applaud the ones that took that $2,600 and bounced, because they knew. They were like, if we don't leave now, we'll never be able to return again.
Well, you know
And
what,
they left.
I have a lot of people of different nationalities. And what I was going to say earlier, every store that I go in, it's not American citizens working in those stores. There are people from Haiti, different places across the sea. I mean, there are no
They
more
speak English.
true Black Americans working in our factories, because you got illegals there, people from China. Everybody's there. All of these positions and opportunities in America are being used up by people who are here illegally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And they're
that's what,
allowing it.
yes.
And at the local level, they're still allowing it. So Congress already did their thing. But the states and the localities that are still allowing this, I don't want to hear anything else about the federal level. I don't want to hear anything else, because you're still allowing people to be here. Because you could call ICE.
Yeah.
You don't have to hire those individuals that you know they're here illegally. Like
Exactly.
Minnesota is off the chain. This whole vouching for people, you can vouch for up to 8 people to say that they are okay to vote. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, when did we start allowing everybody just because they're here on a student visa to vote? You can't vote. You're not a naturalized citizen, period. You
Yep.
can't vote just because you are a permanent resident here on a visa, temporary status, what is it, refugee or asylum seeker. If you are not a naturalized citizen, you can't vote. That's why they're freaked out about the SAVE Act, because the
But Doc,
SAVE Act is going to
I'm
shut all
glad you
that down.
said that.
It's going to
I'm
shut it
glad you
all
said
down.
that, Doc. I'm going to play a little clip of what this doctor said, and I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about that birthright, okay?
Mhm.
I am very disturbed with the latest email releases from Fauci related to his behavior during the pandemic. And this latest one is from a senior US physician in government, acting commissioner of Food and Drugs, Dr. Janet Woodcock, warning Fauci at the beginning of 2021 that she was seeing healthcare professionals report significant adverse events and side effects from the shots. Despite this particular email, maybe there were other emails as well, Fauci still chose to, after a few weeks, champion mandates and didn't say anything about these concerns. Here is what the email showed. This is the latest release of government emails. So this is from Dr. Janet Woodcock. I have been contacted by a number of people who have experienced adverse events post-receiving these shots from all 3 of the current shots. That's interesting. Many are healthcare professionals, some of whom I know. The symptoms do not fit together into a distinctive syndrome, and most are not easily quantifiable or evaluated with standard laboratory testing. So note the wording there from a senior US physician in government. She's calling them adverse events. These are not minor side effects. These are adverse events from healthcare professionals that she knows. Clearly, during the mass administration of all of these shots, you will get a lot of psychological reactions, and it is hard to sort these things out. But the people's main complaint is that no one takes them seriously No one knows how to treat them, and there is no effort to study this. Well, surely that is what being a good doctor and being a good medical professional is all about, actually listening to people and taking them seriously. And it seems like Fauci and others at the top were not taking this seriously. These problems are not the sort that a system like theirs, that's the reporting system in the United States, would be able.
Okay, Doc, your thoughts on that before we
Okay.
go to the
So
birthright?
I'm glad he read that sentence right there, because that's the crux of the matter.
Yes.
VAERS, they couldn't report it in VAERS because it wasn't in there. So they basically had drop downs in VAERS, right? Where you could, it was only in the drop down. That's all you had. It wasn't like you had an open source where you could just say other and then type in what happened to somebody. If it wasn't in VAERS, they just didn't report it. So people keep saying, oh, it's not there. It's not. They couldn't report it. They couldn't report it. Okay. They tried. They went to VAERS and they could not report it. There were other doctors that found VAERS so confusing, they didn't report what they even had that was in there. So we do not have significant solidified data, because everybody was all like, oh, the testing. What about the people that died? And when you say they died, you said they died with or of. With meant they gave people PCR tests after they were dead. And if something came up and it registered, oh, they died with COVID. Dying of COVID means you actually got COVID and died. But we don't know the number because they just said everybody had it, even if you had the flu,
Yes.
even if you had pneumonia, even if you had a regular rhinovirus. This is disgusting. And I'm blaming Congress, House and the
Yes.
Senate. All of you need to be in prison. Do you hear me? If you were in Trump's that first term where he was 2016 to 2020 and then 2020 to all the way to 2025, all y'all need to go to jail.
Well, you know
Not
what,
jail,
Doc?
prison.
You're so right, Doc. And to the American people of patients across this country, let us stand up and let us fight with the people of Congress who are now, like Rand Paul, pulling these issues out. This is a serious situation, and we need to find out exactly how many people are involved, and they need to be held accountable. Doc, you said
They're
something
in
about
Congress. What do you mean? How many people involved? They're in Congress.
some did and some didn't, because we've had a couple of elections that have went by and people didn't know or were not
All
in
the
office.
people. Okay, so we'll just say all the people championing.
Yes.
All the people that were behind it and said, you better go out and get your shot. These doctors, we're going to make sure that they no longer have licenses to practice
Exactly.
medicine. Those people that fought for that, to get those people out of their jobs and destroy people's lives, those are the people that need to go to prison.
Doc, I want to quickly talk about, I got 2 more videos to play. I want to talk about the birthright. You brought that up, and I wanted to let the American people stew on this for a second.
If someone from outside the United States travels here and has a kid, that kid is legally an American citizen. And this holds true for everyone, even if the mother was just visiting for a weekend or crossed the border illegally. This is birthright citizenship, but this law is now being challenged. And despite the recent Supreme Court decision that actually upheld birthright citizenship, it could still get changed. On June 30, 2026, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld birthright citizenship to the fullest extent possible. 5 justices were for it, 3 were against it, and 1 fell somewhere in between, which could lay the foundation for some major revisions. But first off, on the impact. The Supreme Court ruling overturned an executive order from President Donald Trump where he attempted to limit birthright citizenship to not include children of visitors or illegal immigrants. And some Republicans argued that the Supreme Court decision represents the end of the nation as we know it. Others suggested that the decision devalues what it is to even have citizenship. Others argue this leaves us open to foreign fraud, including with birth tourism, that could undermine even our elections. And Democrats, on the other hand, are applauding it. They say this upholds the standard that's been in place since the end of the Civil War, something that's part of who we are as a country. You're born here, you're an American. No questions asked.
Okay, Doc, let's talk about that right quick.
That's a whole lie that
Yes,
they like to
because-
perpetrate, because birthright citizenship is not in our Constitution. It is not in our supremacy clause. It is not anywhere. They hang their hat on this Kim Wong Ark thing. The Chinese individuals, his parents that were here illegally, they could not apply for citizenship, so they were not naturalized citizens. Now, let's just say, for sake of argument, they were able to be naturalized. He would be a naturalized citizen because that's who it fell under. Right? It fell under
Yes.
naturalization.
Yes.
He did not
Exactly.
have that. They put him under born. He was not the descendant of a slave. That's what born represents. Okay.
Yes.
So that people born here, which are people like me, who are descendants of
Me too.
slavery, are in
Yes.
perpetuity citizens automatically. We had to have the 14th Amendment because under the Dred Scott decision, we were not considered citizens of this country. So
Exactly.
people have come here and again diluted things that were put in place for specifically for the American Negro. And then you want
Exactly.
to, perpetrate this fraud. Well, my child is just soil. Just soil applies to England, and they won't even let you get automatic citizenship over there,
Yes.
even though it's a part of their common law. It's not a part of our common law. They just wanted to apply it here. Like the justices, y'all need to go to prison too. Like I'm just on
Yes.
Wednesday.
They're all a part of this scam, and it's been against the American people with the birthright thing. Barack Obama introducing DACA. None of these people illegally. It had nothing to do with any of them. The pregnant women, none of it. It was all about the black
Nope.
citizens who were here, who needed to be naturalized. And I hope President Trump files legislation.
Yes.
That's
What
what.
he's working on.
Yes, he's working on it.
What
So
he's working on.
if you just stay, and that's what I'm telling black people, we have so much power for what they have fought for, but our generations have not taught it. And so our kids don't know how to use the power that was given to us through the Constitution. And that's sad. Now, Doc, I'm crushed for time, but I wanted to make sure we discuss this next video. See, being a parent is not something that you're born with. Being a parent is something that you've experienced and that you've saw on how to raise children to become good citizens.
Yeah.
I love my mother and father so much because they just didn't let me grow up. On Fridays, we sat at the table. They taught us how to balance checkbooks, buy food, pay the bills, all of that. Parents are the first teachers to our children.
Yeah.
And if you don't teach your child nothing, how can you expect for them to follow a rule? If your children do not understand banking, if they don't understand respect, if they have not been disciplined to respect adults, if they have not been taught to be or learn how to be good citizens, how can you blame them for stuff that they do when you as a parent don't know your damn self? And so that's what the black community has regressed to. We got ignorant ass parents who don't know how to train their children. They haven't been taught. Their mothers and fathers didn't teach them. And that has been the down spiral in the black community, is that we didn't pass any structure, no traditions and values, no self-respect to our children. And now here we are, we're experiencing the parents who was born as crack babies.
Yep.
And they themselves don't know how to be parents, but yet they're having children and they're not teaching them, and they're making their children ignorant because they're ignorant. Let me play this clip, and I want your honest opinion about it, Doc, and then we're going to get out of here.
So, you be disrespectful to this motherfucking teacher? Oh, you know you finna get your ass beat, right? Wait, I'm fucking you and I'm not paying. So what you tell her? What you tell Get your ass. Get up. Don't play with me. Now talk to her. Now what you tell her?
I'm sorry, Mom.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Mom.
Huh? You know, talk. Get your motherfucking ass back here now, nigga. What happened? Oh, we gonna have this problem anymore? No. here. It's me and you, nigga. It's me and you. Everything gone, nigga. No outside, no nothing. If this fucking woman come in again, I'm gonna break your fucking face. Do you hear me? Have a nice day. Every piece of work he ain't got, every work homework he ain't do, please send it home. I'm sorry. Please send it home today. You in that room until you die, nigga. Fuck wrong with you? This woman ain't gotta come here to teach none of you badass kids, but she do. But don't play with me, nigga. Make me get that call again. You ain't think I was coming up here on your ass. You lucky I was trying to find you in that classroom. I will whoop you where you act up at.
Okay, that was a lot. All right, so let's just say, look, first of all, he's a child. He is not a grown man, and you should never treat your children like that.
Exactly.
Because that's not going to help that child be anything but destructive. He's going to remember that moment for the rest of his life. He's going to be disrespectful to every woman that he comes across. First of all, he's not going to have any respect for a woman. Okay, at all. Not his mother, not any. Even if he hides it internally, he's imploding. He will check. He's checked out. Any learning that they try to do, he's gone. Because he's afraid to learn. School is something. School is not a place that's a place of peace for him. It's not a place of learning for him. It's not a place of structure for him. It's been destroyed.
Well, the mother has traumatized this child.
Oh, completely.
This child will always have the fear of learning, like you said, but at the same time, he's going to disrespect women. When he gets to be a man, he going to remember this. And he not going to want to be able to have the type of attitude to have a good relationship with a woman, because in the back of his mind, he's going to remember this. Now, look at the mother. I got a whooping one time for sneaking off to school when I was a boy, right? I got whooped in front of the whole school. My mother whipped me and took me home down the road whooping me, right? It taught me, one, I shouldn't be lying. And if I was going to go somewhere, it taught me to make sure my mama knew instead of sneaking off.
Right.
But at the same time, she didn't damage me. This mother is a piece of shit, because you don't call your child motherfuckers and niggas and all of that. That's what I mean by the crackheads.
Yeah.
These are crackheads' children, because that's how that they were raised. Their mama taught them and did this while they were smoking a pipe. Yeah. That's why I say our community has been under siege.
Yeah, it was the grandmothers and the mothers. Yes. You know what I'm saying? It's at least 2 generations.
This is not parenting.
No.
And this is what they think. And this is why our children are so caught up. They don't know anything. All they know is violence that have been brought to them in the way that they've been raised. The parents can't give them any knowledge because they don't have it themselves.
No.
Even the teachers should have intervened and stopped her and said, hold up, wait a minute, Mom, you going a little bit too far right now. But what happened? You saw a black male child being totally decimated by his mother in front of other women. This is going to be psychological trauma on this young boy. He will never be no good, but be a part of the prison system if he doesn't run into some proper parenting or a person that's going to help him with the issues that he's going to have for the rest of his life.
He's open to all pedophilia. He's open to everything. Like when I say damaged, that was just the beginning, because the pedophiles are next. They're going to be like, oh, he's free game. He'll do whatever we want him to do as long as we're nice to him. He'll do whatever we say. And so now her son's going to not just be damaged by her, damaged by other people that will constantly use and abuse him, right? And then prayerfully, he doesn't fall into a life of crime, but more than likely not, he will. And that revisitism that you're talking about, he will be constantly in and out of prisons. And here's the thing, and I know a lot of people out there, we should be praying about him to be a better person. We are, but realistically, a lot of these children that go through what this young man has gone through, they don't end up on the right side.
No. And Doc, let's think about it now. Think about the school system to the American people and patriots across this country. Think about the school system that are not teaching children about math, science, and how to be good citizens. They're teaching them how to be homosexuals. Yeah, all of that they're not teaching. So this child is going to go along with the program, whatever the teacher says, because he's been traumatized by his mother who was ignorant and did this in front of the teachers. So now these teachers can approach that child and say, I want you to say you a girl and all this other kind of shit. And this child will go along with it because he don't want his crazy ass mama to come up there and beat him and use profane language against him. And what, he's only, 7 or 8 years old?
Yes. Boys need to be outside and play. That's why we have recess. Y'all took recess away. And you wonder why these little boys are like all antsy because they need to go outside and run and play their energy off. So when they come back down, they're settled down and they're focused. We had recess when I was growing up. It worked pretty well until my children started going to school. And then they were like, your kid is fidgety. And do they go to recess?
Let me
give them 15 minutes a day during lunch? What?
Let me remind Black citizens in the Black community how they played us against our kids. The school system came up with Ritalin and all sorts of other drugs when our children who didn't get to go outside and exercise, who was acting up in class. See, the Black people have sit on their asses and let people in government tell us about our kids. And see, those kids were introduced to things that they never should have been. They came up with Ritalin, right?
And
So
it's a speedball. It is heroin and cocaine.
Yes. Let me tell you this.
Complete narcotic.
I had a nephew in Rock Island, Illinois, and he was very excitable. He ran around the house everywhere he ran around. When he got in school, the teachers, because he was so antsy and they wouldn't let him go play, they came up and said, well, we think your son got some psychological problems. And so we're going to recommend that we put him on this Ritalin drug to calm him down so that he can learn. Do you know how many children, parents that didn't research, that put their kids on Ritalin and now they're nothing but junkies? So I told my sister-in-law, I said, no, wait a minute. Don't do that. I said, it's not the fact that he has a learning disability that makes him excitable because they say, oh, he DHAA and all that other bullshit, right? I said, why don't you just get him into sports?
Yeah.
Listen, this is what happened to my nephew. He got into sports. His grades went up. He became a soccer champion. He went to the University of Iowa. He played as a wide receiver. He went on to the NFL and played with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Come on.
And just think, if his mother had given him that Ritalin, he wouldn't be shit today because he wouldn't be nothing but a junkie, because those medicines was to destroy manhood and our young Black boys, and parents fell for it.
Yeah.
And now this is what you see. What you just saw was not how parents treat their children, but you saw the results of what a crackhead baby kid can turn into and do to them, what happened to them, to their own children. This is a disgrace. I saw it. My heart was broken because I felt sorry for the child, not because of the whooping, the discipline. You have to sometimes, but the words that she used against him, the name she called him, and the way she presented it, this child will be traumatized for the rest of his life. I'm praying that the Black community wake up and that those kind of parents be brought to a place, because they don't have enough education for themselves. She probably worked at Family Dollar somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I seen a little tag on there, but she doesn't have the capacity to be a parent, to raise children that could benefit not only her and raise a family, but be a good citizen in this country.
And like CPS isn't coming for that. But interestingly enough, CPS will come for things that don't even have anything to do with that and traffic children all over this country. That's the craziness about this. That teacher stood there and said nothing because she was fearful. So was the teacher's aide. They were both like, she will kill us too. We are not saying anything.
Well, you know what? They were looking at it like this. Now we got control of his ass.
Complete control.
Control over him. And if we want to make him a sissy and tell him that,
we will.
He ain't going to say nothing to his mama because he's going to be scared and they're going to destroy this child. He could become a homosexual, a pedophile, you name it. Whatever those teachers want to put in him, that's what he is going to be. To Black people, let us get our kids out of these schools. And we need to start our own schools, especially we need to start teaching parents on how to be parents, because you can't be a parent off the internet. If you experience the type of things that she did to this kid at home, then you can't be a parent to nobody's kids. Your last words, Doc, before I get out of here.
Well, thank you guys for joining us here on Let the Truth Be Told, and make sure you tap into Unfiltered Vision News, which is Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. And also make sure you check out the USA Redemption Party. We are looking for servants of the people who are candidates and members of the party, and that's at usaredemptionparty.com.
Doc, thank you so much, and we'll be talking next week. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the show, and I really, it's heartfelt when we can see things that cause problems in our community, like the last video I showed. It got me sort of heated, and I just want to let people know that for the Black community, if we're going to make any substantial changes, we have to change the way we think. We have to change who we are. We have to change the trajectory because our children don't have it. They don't have no foundation. They don't know about generational wealth. They don't know about home economics. They don't know about anything because they're not being taught. To the American people and patriots across this country, as we can see it, our communities are in shambles because of a failed government, of failed politicians, of failed parents. If we don't stop right now, America has already gone to hell in a handbasket. If we don't make changes right now, if we don't stand up and do the right thing, if we don't get back, especially Black Americans, if we don't put our small petty differences aside and clean our communities up and get rid of those house Negroes in office who are letting this thing go through, who accepted the homosexuality, who accept your kid being an idiot. That's what they're teaching your kids. And if we don't have parents that know how to be parents again, the Black community dies. God bless you. Y'all go to YouTube under my name, David Lowry, Moments of Truth. Please subscribe to the show and share it around and let people know. Let the truth be told. Let the truth be told. It'll move your soul. God bless you. I love you. Put God first. That's the only way we'll survive again.